Mr. Jim Fugate, you gave us a speech now.
You've heard of sensory deprivation tanks before, right? Where you just can't hear anything, you lay there in the darkness quietly. The experience I had was completely different. In fact, it could be the anti-sensory deprivation tank. In that, no, I really couldn't perceive anything outside of the envelope I was in, but the envelope I was in was very noisy. Think of watching Star Wars and hearing Darth Vader going. It sounded like that, only lots louder inside my head as I was breathing through a breathing apparatus. It was warm, it was hot, and I hadn't even got into the building yet, wearing firefighter bunker gear. And because this was a training exercise, I couldn't see anything. Because the mask that I was wearing was covered with duct tape. Couldn't see a thing. Went into the building, and it was my job to lead. What we were doing was, there were two of us. I had a big, tall Texan with size 13 boots following behind me, and he would just keep in contact with my feet as I was crawling along. And it was my job to stay in contact with the wall so that if the space got really big and confused, we wouldn't get lost. And at every turn we came to, we'd make a turn in the same direction. Theoretically then, we would be able to cover an entire single-story home. Very easy, find the steps, go up and do the same thing. Looking for victims who might be still alive inside of a burning house. We entered the door. Bam, the door goes open. We got the news. We're going through. You're hearing sweat dripping off of all of you. And you know, there was no fire in the house, but it sure felt like it because you're working so hard. Now, you've not got a lot of time. This was back in the day when we wore steel tanks instead of fiberglass and composite tanks. The steel tanks, along with all the other gear, weighed about 65 to 70 pounds. Close to half what you lost. And it's heavy, and it's hot, and it's hard work, and you can't see what you're doing, and you can't hear, and it's difficult to communicate with the person you're with. Well, we did clear the first floor. There was nobody to get out of the first floor, so we moved on to the second floor. Went up the stairs, entered the first room, found nothing, entered the second room. It was a very small room. Feeling along the wall, sink. Feeling along the wall, a toilet. Feeling along the wall and making the corner, and there's a tub. Making the corner, going again, there's another corner. And there's a sink, and a toilet, and a tub. And we keep going around and around. Now, we'd already been in for a while, and when your breathing apparatus starts to run out of air, there's a bell that starts to ring. So not only do you now have a deafening sound right in your ears, you can't hear anything, but you also have ding, 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 ding. Your time is running out. You're going to die soon. We went around, I don't know how many times we orbited that little bathroom, but what had happened, well, I'll tell you what happened a little bit later. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, I'd like to tell you some of the lessons that I learned as a firefighter. Little anecdotes and reality checks that will be something that will be valuable for you to think about as you face your own life. The first one that I learned is do not panic. This is very important. So often decisions are made out of panic. Were we in a position where we were starting to feel a little bit panicky as we were orbiting this bathroom, this big size 13-foot Texan and I? Yeah, we were. We were running out of air. We were going to be in trouble. This was a problem. But you have to be able to overcome the panic. Remember this. I don't know if this will come through or not, but we'll try it. How's this? See if you'll be impressed by mine.
Do not panic! Do not panic! We are trained professionals!
You remember that from A Bug's Life? Yeah. Don't panic, because any decision you make, any way that you move forward, if you make the decision out of fear, if you're panicked, if you're concerned, it affects the way that you're thinking. And the decision made out of fear is almost always going to be a bad decision. So as you look at some of these, and some of them are going to seem a little bit rough, we get really down to the basics on a few things. Understand that I do that because if you come from that basic foundational level, throwing away the fear and just thinking about things logically, the decisions you make, the choices you make, the things that you do will work out better for you. So, we got to a point where we're circling the bathroom. We've orbited it about 5 or 6 times. All we can hear is our own breathing and the ringing of both of our bells. We're yelling back and forth, trying to figure out what has happened. And then, like a voice from overhead, like the voice of God, we hear, "Okay, girls, stop." So we stop, and he says, "What do you think happened?" And we both go, "I don't know." Sitting there on our knees, almost out of air, my face mask is pushing against my face because there's no more air to breathe out of the tank. He says, "Go ahead, demask, take it off. Let me tell you what happened. Or see if you can figure it out." Pull off our face mask, we rest for a little bit, there's sweat dripping off of us. We failed. We have failed miserably. And what has happened is that as we entered the door and made the turn, that big old Texan in his size 13 boot did something that would be completely logical if we'd have not panicked and just stopped to think about it for a second. He kicked the door closed. And me, being young and stupid and not thinking clearly, I wasn't sweeping up the wall far enough to find a doorknob to be able to let us back out. He kicked the door closed and I couldn't find a way to open it. The point here is that every one of us will find a point at which we're blind, we can't hear, we can't see, we don't know what the answer is. We just don't know. I don't know. That's how we felt. There is a way to go into a house. There is a way, and you'll notice if you just keep making right turns, you're going to cover the entire home. Until you kick one of the doors closed, you can't see it coming. But this is the lesson. You need to admit, without panic and without fear of recrimination, when you don't know. When you come to a point where you're lost, that you don't understand, that you don't know how, that you need help. You just can't do it. I don't care who you are. I don't care how old and wise and experienced you are. You will find a point in your life at which you don't know. And it's okay. Ask for help. Because someone, maybe even the rookie, knows exactly how to overcome the problem you're facing. That little room that you just keep to seem orbiting and you can't get out, maybe he can help you out. So ask that question.